Welcome to your students for this continuation lecture on the stability prediction of the isobar family. In the previous lecture, I had spoken about odd A isobar family, and let me again come back to this expression. This expression is the one which we had derived from the liquid drop model. And last lecture, we had seen what are the values of these coefficients alpha, beta and gamma, and I'd asked you to remember these coefficients. And this plus minus delta term is the pairing energy term, which is looking after some of the unusually high values of binding energy for lower A nuclei that is specifically meant for that. To take care of that, this has been introduced, and we had seen what are the values of delta. For odd A isobar family, this delta was 0, and we were left with only the first three terms, and we saw that there is a, for odd A isobar, it was like a parabola, and when we plotted a graph of mass versus the charge, and the lowest point in this parabola corresponded to the, the most stable member of the family, and we derived the expression for Z0. We have also derived the expression for M0, the mass. And I'd asked you that using this, verify by putting the values of alpha, beta, and gamma, by knowing the values of alpha, beta, and gamma, I'd asked you to calculate and verify whether it matches with the observed results or not. Okay, I hope you have done that. If not, we'll take it up as an exercise later on. And it will turn out that this prediction is very accurate of the liquid drop model and matches with the most stable element of the isobar family, which is observed in odd A isobar families. Now today we are going to be talking on even A isobar families. Okay, in even A the thing is a little different. And now delta is not 0. Now even numbers can be formed two ways. You can have even n, even z, giving rise to even A, or you can have both n and z odd. So you know that odd plus odd will give you even. Here the values are different, but you know that even nuclei are very stable, and odd nuclei are not stable. There are only 5 odd stable nuclei observed in nature. So it's very easy to remember that for odd, delta has to be taken for as plus delta. The whole idea is that the mass is much more. More the mass, less the stability. So the delta is going to be plus for odd, and for even, you take delta as negative, because here there are two possibilities, either it is plus delta or minus delta, which means now you have for each even A isobar families, there are going to be two parabolas, one with plus delta and one with minus delta. Let me take it to the next slide that will illustrate. So this graph is for odd A. You can see A is 135, odd number. For odd number, you have only one parabola. Now here you can see that A is even, 102. I've just taken one family. Now if A is even, then you have two parabolas. The inner one is odd, and the outer one is even. So this is your even, which is having less mass. And odd is the inner one, which is having more mass, like that. Is the whole idea. And both of them, as you can guess, would be separated by how much? 2 delta. They should be separated by 2 delta. Okay. So this is the whole idea here. So now let's take one family here, one of the family of isobars. There are many such families. One of the families I have taken for explanation's sake. I have taken a family whose A is 104. So all members have A equal to 104. Of course, they differ by Z. So it starts with 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, and 48. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 members. I just listed them: molybdenum, technetium, palladium, cadmium, lithium, rhodium, and silver. So these are the family members: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 members are there. Now you will see that some of them are lying on the outer curve while some members are lying in the inner curve. The outer and the inner curve are separated by, as you can see, they are separated by 2 delta. Okay, they are separated by 2 delta. Okay, they are separated by 2 delta. Okay, now you'll ask me, why should there be 2 parabolas? There are 2 parabolas because, now let's start with molybdenum. Molybdenum has got, it's an example of even even. Even means it has got even number of protons and even number of neutrons. Both of them are even. Now, if it beta decays, it becomes 43. So Z will become 43. Moment Z becomes 43 here, you can see that. Moment Z becomes 43 here, what is going to happen? This is now going to get converted into odd. So this is an example of odd. Because dear students, you know that A has to be fixed. If A is fixed, 104, if one of them is odd, then obviously the other one also has to be odd to make that even. So this becomes technetium. Now technetium again beta decays. From 43 it becomes 44. You know that Z increases in a beta decay. It becomes 44 here. So the moment it becomes 44, again it comes into this parabola, which is for the even. So like that. Now what happens in the case of even A isobar family is, there are 2 parabolas. Number 1, the outer one is for the even family, and the inner one is the odd family. Now if you start with one element, if it beta decays into the next element, then it will zigzag from one curve to another curve, which means that supposing if it is even member, and if it beta decays, it will zigzag to the odd curve. If it is an odd, if it is already lying in the odd curve, if it beta decays, it will zigzag into the even curve. Now here comes a very interesting situation here. Please pay attention. Here this is ruthenium. Now this ruthenium cannot zigzag into rhodium. The reason is the mass will increase. Mass increases means, you know that in an exothermic reaction the mass has to decrease. This is not going to be possible. So this is not going to be possible. This way is not going to be possible. This is not going to be. Of course, rhodium can decay into ruthenium. Rhodium can decay into ruthenium. That's a different thing. Now rhodium can also decay into palladium. Here you can see. So it has got 2 options. Either it can decay by beta minus and convert into ruthenium, or the beta plus and convert into ruthenium, or it can beta minus where the Z increases and reach palladium. So there are 2 options. Now here let's talk about this member here, cadmium. Cadmium will emit beta plus. As you know in the previous lecture, all members in the right hand side of the curve. Now what do I mean by right hand? If I have to draw some center here. Okay, now let me just draw the center here. So there are 2 parts. One is the right, this is your right, and this is your left. All members on the right hand side, when they slide down, they will emit beta plus, and all members on the left hand side will slide down the curve and emit beta minus. So that is very clear, because here when you're going from right to left, Z is decreasing. And when you're going from left to right, Z is increasing. So Z is increasing means beta minus. Z is decreasing means it is beta plus. Okay, or electron capture, either one of them. Now, uh, okay, now this point is clear. There are other things which we will see. I was talking about this interesting situation. Now, this fellow is having higher mass, but this one is having lower mass, palladium. But now the problem is for ruthenium to go to palladium, it has to first go to RH, ruthium, okay, rhodium. From ruthenium, it has to go to rhodium. From rhodium, it has to go to palladium. Now, in this process, what is happening is there are going to be two beta decay processes. Two beta. So, here beta minus process, this is the beta minus to reach ruthenium, and from rhodium to reach palladium, again it has to emit a beta minus. It's called double beta decay. What is it called? Double beta decay. And only then when it emits two beta particles will it reach palladium. But the problem is this is not energetically possible because this cannot directly slide from here to here. To go from here to here, it needs to emit two beta particles. Now, if it emits one beta particle, it will straight away go to rhodium, and from rhodium, if it emits beta particle, only then it will go to palladium. So, once a particle emits beta particle, it has to slide into the next curve. So, that is what we have seen. Now, in order to go to the next curve, the mass is increasing. You can see that the mass is more. But you know that if the mass is more, you cannot have a naturally occurring exothermic reaction. Mass increases means you know it's an endothermic reaction. And for endothermic reaction, you need accelerators and all that. We're talking about natural decay here. So there's no question of endothermic reaction. So let's discuss this possibility whether two beta particles can be emitted simultaneously. So for double beta decay to occur, we will calculate the uncertainty in energy. What do you mean by uncertainty in energy is this is energetically not possible. But we'll say that this is still possible. It can be uncertain by an amount delta E. Will ask me what is delta E. Delta E is related to delta n. You know that E is equal to delta mc square. So delta E and masses are related. So here we are talking about uncertainty mass leads to uncertainty in energy by how much amount, that gives you delta E. Depending on the mass difference between this and this, we can calculate delta E. And that delta E we put here. So from this we get delta T. And this delta T, you don't have to do the calculation, but this delta T is turning out to be order of 10 raised to minus 22 seconds. Now what does this mean? Even if for conservative estimate we take delta T to be the time scale in which this process is happening, of course this is just uncertainty in time. The uncertainty in time is turning out to be 10 raised to minus 22 seconds. Because this uncertainty, if this uncertainty is large, this uncertainty is going to be less. So you can see this uncertainty may be opposite. If this is less, this is going to be more. So what happens here is this delta t is just giving you an estimate that this entire process to happen, it has to happen in the time scale of 10 raised to minus 22 seconds without or with violating conservation law of energy, which means energy law can be violated if it obeys this relationship of delta E, that is uncertainty in energy, and uncertainty in time is of the order of H. So what is found in nature is this decay from ruthenium to palladium. This is not Pb, sorry, there's a mistake here. Let's correct it. This is Pd, not Pb. This is palladium. So from ruthenium to palladium, for this decay to happen, it needs to be two beta decays. beta particles. For two beta particles to be emitted, it has to happen in the time scale of 10 raised to minus 22 seconds. Only then you can get away with violating conservation law of energy. And this is too small a time scale, and this has never been observed. So you never find ruthenium uh, getting decayed into palladium. So what does this mean? It means that once the particle reaches ruthenium, the particle reaches ruthenium here. Okay, if the particle reaches ruthenium, then it cannot go to RH. So which means it has to lie here. This means this is stable. Ruthenium is also stable. Palladium is also stable. So even a isomer family, you will have more than one stable members. That is the difference between even and odd. In odd, you have only one stable member, while in even a isobar family, you can have one stable member or more than one. So here palladium is also stable because palladium cannot decay any further. Here ruthenium is also stable because it cannot decay any further. If it decays, then it will violate law of conservation of energy. And if it has to violate law of conservation of energy, it has to take place in a time scale of the order of 10 raised to minus 22 seconds, which is very, very small time scale, nuclear scale, which is not found in nature. So that's why the reason why two stable elements are observed is because they are all lying in such a position that they are not able to decay any further. So now let's look into the highlights of the uh, even A family. In even A isobar family, there are two parabolas. There are two parabolas, and both of them are displaced by 2 delta. We have seen that. One is having this thing, that is the difference between them. Now, during the decay, the element of the isobar family zigzags between the two parabolas. We have seen that. Okay. Then odd nuclei lie on the upper curve and are therefore unstable with respect to those of the lower curve. You know that if it is in the upper curve, any element is in the upper curve, it can easily beta decay into the lower curve. That's why you never have a stable element in the odd family. Odd A, you can see that it's not stable because if it lies here, it has to fall down into a lower mass. So that's why it's not stable. Okay, that's one point. Now this is giving an explanation as to why odd nuclei are never found to be stable. The reason is simple, that they are in the curve where they decay by beta decay process, and they reach the lower curve, which is even. So what is found in nature is, so no stable odd nuclei should exist. This is the statement we are making. Why odd nuclei are not existing, stable nuclei are existing, is because they will have got a tendency of going to the lower curve. The only exception are few. So we are talking about even A isobar families. In even A isobar families, let me make the problem very clear. Even A isobar family, A is even. In even A isobar families, you are not having any odd nuclei to be stable. The reason is they are lying on the lower curve, upper curve, and from upper curve they can decay into the lower curve. So that's the whole idea. That's why they are not stable. The only exception which has been found, the only exception are few nuclei. Now let's consider this family. This family has got A is equal to 14, carbon 14, nitrogen 14, and oxygen 14. Out of which, surprisingly, this is one of the exceptions, dear students. So please understand, this is not the rule. Here, what was expected, least expected, is this member to be stable. Now, if this is stable, you can see Z is odd, N has also to be odd. 14 minus 7 will also be odd. But as per the theory which we have just discussed, you don't have odd nuclei to be stable in an even A isobar family. But this is an exception which is found in nature. Okay. Now let me go to the mirror nuclei. concept of mirror nuclei. Now, what are mirror nuclei? Mirror nuclei have N and Z differing by 1 unit. Okay. Determine the mass difference. Consider A to be the odd. Now you have to, okay, now let's see. You can see that 7 and 15, 8, 0, 15. Here you can see that Z is 7. So you can see that, one second here. Using this data, okay, we have N and Z. So here Z is 7. Here in this case, you can see that N is equal to 15 minus 7 is 8. So they are differing by 1 unit. You can see this, or you can see Z is 7 here and 8 is uh, Z is 8 here. So here this is Z and here this is N. So N is would be equal to 8 here. So this becomes a mirror nuclei. So N and Z are differing by only 1 unit. So that is what is called the mirror nuclei. Okay, so let's see this the whole idea here. Here N and Z are interchanged. Okay, so the other definition is, you can see this. Let me write this again. This is N15. This is 7. This is 8. Oxygen 15. Now in mirror nuclei you can have that A is same. Here you can see that A is same. So what is interchange is N and Z. Here N is Z is 7. Okay. While here N is 7. So that is the basic difference. You can see that's why it's called mirror. So Z is 7 here, N is 7 here. Or the other way around, you can see that Z is 8 here. Okay. You can see this. While here you can see this is N is 8 here. So basically that's how the difference. So N and Z are basically differing by 1 unit plus or 1 minus unit. So you can see that this is your, in mirror nuclei, the difference between N and Z would be either +1 or -1. Right. So now what is being asked in this problem is, these are the two mirror nuclei. Their masses are given. Now using this data to determine the Coulomb coefficient in the semi-empirical mass formula. This is the example. Okay. Now what we do here is, how do we solve this? Mass formula is known to you. First you write on the mass formula. Now here comes the difference. The asymmetric term, in the asymmetric term, please pay attention, this is A minus 2Z. So A minus 2Z can also be written as, A can be written as N plus Z minus 2Z, which is nothing but N minus Z. So instead of N minus Z, write plus minus 1. So wherever there is A minus 2Z, you can write plus or minus 1. And then, okay, this is for MZA, this is for one nuclei. And for the next nuclei, instead of Z, now it becomes Z plus 1. A is same, because the neutron and protons are interchanged. So A is same. So in this also, you, whenever you have asymmetric term, wherever there is Z, for example, Z is here, instead of Z you can write Z plus 1. Now there is another Z here, here Z, so you can write Z plus 1, and instead of Z minus 1, this one. So try to solve this in a piece of paper. You first write down the expression for ZA, then write down the expression for MZ plus 1A, and in this entire expression, wherever there is asymmetric term, A minus 2Z, instead of that you write down plus or minus 1 and solve. That I will leave it to you as an exercise. I have put it in the PPT, you can look into it. I'm not discussing this. You can take the difference of the two, M plus 1 minus mz. So there are two parts of the problem. You can see that the first problem is asked here, calculate the mass difference, A to be odd. Okay, mass difference odd means, that's why we have put delta to be 0. That's why you can see that the delta is put as 0 here. It's an odd one. So similarly you take the difference for A is odd, okay, and then try to solve them, and this is the expression you get for the mass difference. Okay, this is the expression for the mass difference. Now, the next part of the problem is to calculate the Coulomb coefficient. They are given the mass, they are given the masses here. See, part 2, they are given the masses. So put the values of the masses, and mass of proton is known, mass of neutron is known. A is given to you. Okay, A is known 15. So put all those value and try to get the value of coefficient. So it will turn out to be 0.58 something. 0.6 you know is the value as per the uh, liquid drop model. So this is how we can calculate the Coulomb coefficient. Right. So let me quickly summarize. The whole lecture we discussed about even A isobar families, trying to find out the stable member, and we found that we can have more than one stable member for even members. And the other thing we found is why the odd members of A, even A, are unstable, and while the stability is always with the even members. We have seen that, and we have seen why double beta decay process is not allowed. We saw mirror nuclei, and using mirror nuclei we tried to solve some numerical. Okay, thank you.